Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I am going to explain about promises in JavaScript. Promises are a fundamental concept in JavaScript using which we can handle asynchronous operations. In simple terms, a promise is an object which is going to receive a value in future. Currently, it is not having any value, but it is going to receive a value in future that may be either a success one or a failure one. Okay. Some real-time examples be like while making an API call, we may have to wait for some time to get a response back, right? So at those times, we can use these promises. First, I will show you how to create a promise. For that, we can simply create a variable. I'm creating a variable named getData. To this, we can use this new promise. Basically, this new promise is going to give a new instance of this promise object. Inside this promise, we are going to provide a callback function. That callback function will accept two parameters, namely resolve and reject. Resolve will be triggered when the output is going to be success. Similarly, reject will be triggered if there is any failure. Inside this, I'm going to have my asynchronous operation. In this case, I'm going to use a web API. That is, I'm going to use set timeout just to make our response a slight delay. To this set timeout, I'm going to pass a callback function and I'm going to set the time frame to 3000, that is basically 3 seconds. And inside this, I'm going to have a simple console.log with a random text in it. Let me run and show it to you how it works. You can see for the first 3 seconds, we don't have any data. After 3 seconds, it is printing the text that I had here. Basically, this set timeout is making the delay of the 3000 seconds, like 3000 milliseconds, that is 3 seconds. Next, I'm going to console log this promise to show you how it performs. Here you can see first we are getting promise pending and after 3 seconds we are getting this test. So basically with this promise we are having three types of states. State is pending and the second state is completed or fulfilled and the third state is rejected. As the name suggests, this pending state will be given to a promise while it is trying to receive a data, while it was in a phase that is trying to receive a data. At that time, the promise will be in pending state. Once it got the data, that data might be either a success one or a failure one. If it is success, then the state will be changed to fulfilled. Otherwise, the rejected state will be allocated to this promise. So while executing a promise, it will go under these three different states. We have to take that in mind. So that's why we have got pending at first. And after 3 minutes, after that promise got resolved, we got this test. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is we are going to fetch a data from promise. Okay. So for that, I'm going to remove this console log. And here I have said this resolve will be triggered for a success value. Similarly, this reject will be triggered for a failure value. First, I will show the example with success value. I am going to call this resolve. Inside this, we are going to give a data that the user wants. Okay. I'm just having some random string here. So to get the data from promise, we need to first use that promise variable. After that, we need to use this then keyword. From here only we will able to receive the data. Here we are going to have a callback function. In this we can just give any name that we want. In this case I'm accessing them as array, like accessing them as data, and I'm going to console log whatever we are receiving. Right, it's a simple code. Let me execute it. After 3 seconds we are getting the data that whatever we had here, right? Using then and inside a callback function we can receive the data. Similarly, I will show the example for reject. If I try to run this, now you may see we are getting error. What the error suggests is, it is saying the promise is the promise got rejected. So we need to handle that rejection case as well, right? So to handle that rejection case, what we can do is to this function, we can just attach a catch. And again, in this catch, we can receive that error. And I will try to log this error as well here. So since a promise can contain both resolve and reject, I mean the success and failure, we need to take care of handling both the success and failure part. So that's why I have added this catch part here to handle the errors. If I run this now, after 3 seconds, we are going to get that reject message, that is the error message using this catch block. Okay, this is how we can handle errors with promises. The other way to declare a promise is like we can simply do it like this. Let's say you surely know that promise is only going to be success, then we can simply use promise.resolve, and inside this we can give whatever text we want, like whatever data we want, and we can access them like how we did here earlier. It is going to give us back the data. So if I run this, see, we are getting the data. Using this way also we can declare a promise and get data from it. Now we have understood how the promise is working. Now let us see what are some useful inbuilt function that promise provided to us. I'm going to use a fetch API here. So I hope you all have an idea about this fetch. Basically this fetch will return a promise. If you just hover this, you can see it is going to return promise of response. So to this fetch, I have passed the dummy fake store API, which is going to return me a JSON response. Using .10, first I have converted this response to JSON here. And again, I'm using 10. Now I have a JSON response. From this JSON response, I'm just fetching title value here. Okay. So here you can see I have one promise here. I'm going to create multiple promises like this so that I can show you how we can work with multiple promises at once. Okay. I'm just going to rename this promise 1 to promise 2 and this thing to promise 3. Similarly, to differentiate the response, I'm going to change the ID values here. Now you can see we have 3 different API calls. I'm going to perform all 3 API calls simultaneously. We can do this using promise.all function. To this all function, we need to pass an array. Inside this array, we can have all our promises that we want to execute simultaneously. Here I am passing all the 3 promises, and here again we can use this .then function, and we can have a callback function to this .then, and we can receive a data here. So if I log this data here, let us log and show it to you first. Here you can see we are getting array of data. Basically, the first index, that is 0th index, is going to contain the promise 1's value. The first index is going to contain the promise second value. Similarly, the third one is going to contain the promise third value. Okay, so in whatever order we have mentioned here, it is going to return the data in the same order. If we want, we can take only the first promise value by accessing that specific index. Okay, but one disadvantage with this promise.all is like this promise.all will return data only if all the promises passed to this function are successful, that is resolved. If any one of them got rejected, then it is not going to give us the data back. Now let us show you an failure case with an example. I am just changing this promise 3 to return reject intentionally so that I will show you what happens if any one of the promise getting rejected. If I run this, we are going to receive an error straight away, because even though this promise 1 and promise 2 got resolved, this promise 3 is returning us the rejection. So it will automatically don't return data for any of the promises. That is the one of the biggest disadvantages with this promise.all function. For that also we have a solution, that is the next function that we are going to see, that is promise.all settled. Basically what this all settled is going to do is Like in these three promises, if any of the promises got rejected or success, it is going to return the original state. Like no matter what, even though some of the promises get rejected, it will return the data for the ones that got resolved. It will be very difficult in theory level to understand. Let me run this and show it to you what I am trying to say. Here you can see we are receiving three objects in an array. With promise, we have simply received an array, but here it's array of objects. Within each object, you can see we have status. This status basically referring to the promise status. It is clearly saying the first promise has got fulfilled. That is, we have successfully got the data, and it is giving us the value in the value keyword. We can directly access this value using this value keyword. Similarly, the second promise is also got fulfilled, but the third one you can see it got rejected, and it is also giving the rejection reason, whatever we have passed, right? So in this case, using this, we can directly access this dot value. Like even though some of the promises get rejected, we will still get the values for that ones that got resolved. This is what I'm trying to say here. That is the one huge difference between this promise.all and promise.settled. So I hope you have understood this promise concept in JavaScript. This is one of the very important concepts that you need to be know